Peace, peace, family. It is I, Miss Isla Moon. I would say intuitive astrologer, but I'm not really wearing my astrology hat today. If you are returning, thank you for coming back and tuning in. If you are new here, welcome. I invite you to come, learn, grow, heal, all things that put us in alignment with our divine and true nature of who we are here to really be. Now, I know this video is a little late today. I'm a little under the weather. I nurtured my son back to health, but apparently, I didn't do a good job of boosting my immune system so that I didn't get sick. So I'm a little under the weather, but I'm feeling a little better. I took it easy today. Also, you guys, I forgot my microphone. I'm out. I came out to get, some of this fresh air. And unfortunately, I did forget my microphone, which is why I went ahead and rolled the windows up. And hopefully you all can still hear me. Now, when I set out to do this video, you guys, I came with the thought process that I was going to talk about the full moon in Sagittarius, which we have coming up on June 3rd or 4th, depending upon where you are, right? And so I wanted to come on and talk about that energy, but I guess Spirit had another thing like that ain't it today, so I'm going with it, and so I want to talk about this healing journey and what that looks like sometimes. Now, I know that we are all aware that there is some level of unhealed trauma that we all walk around with, right? Some are more aware than others. However, as you become aware of it, sometimes it's hard to know exactly where even to start to begin the healing process. You get used to walking around with this armor that you've put on as a protective measure when life showed you that being who you were here just wasn't safe, right? And so as you learn and grow and you begin to put up stronger boundaries, you realize that you're walking around with all this excess baggage that you don't necessarily need anymore. Also, walking around with that armor, baggage, hurt, pain, unhealed trauma, it really colors the way that we view the world in its entirety. So everything becomes colored through the lens in which your trauma lives, through which your unhealed hurts and pains and emotions, all those things that we hold in our emotional body where it lives, and we begin to see the world through that. And then, as if that's not bad enough, right, the world begins to show us our hurt through other people, because it's almost like that pain and that hurt and those traumas, it's almost like a flashlight or some kind of signifier for other people who walk around with these traumas too, to come in and reflect what you're carrying around, right? And so I wanted to talk about this because honestly, this is how I really got into astrology. And sometimes people ask me, like, what drew you to astrology? Well, honestly, I was going through such a rough time, and I know some who may be familiar, I haven't talked about this extensively, but like literally in 2006, I tried to take my own life. And I can remember having like this series of visions when I came home, and when I reached out to someone who was a trusted person, what they told me just did not resonate. You know what I mean? And so I began to dig more into who I am. First lesson: you're never going to find what you need outside of yourself. You can find help. You can find allies, you can find people who want to push you in the right direction, but you're not going to find what it is that you need in order to fully heal or to fully become the person that you are meant to be. It's not without, it's within. And so what I started doing, I was already someone who was kind of drawn to astrology. I pulled my chart. I didn't know nothing about reading it or none of that. But what I started doing was like, it's a little key that comes at the bottom. And, you know, it would say like, I have, of course, I knew I was a Cancer sun sign. But the other signs like my Mercury and my Mars and, you know what I'm saying, like my Venus and where they lay, I didn't know anything about any of that. And one by one, I went and studied each one of those things, and I could clearly see how it was pertaining to me in my life and how it was playing out in my life. You know what I mean? But in most of those instances, I was living out the lower expression of those energies because I had so much trauma that I had not even begun to unpack. See, I couldn't unpack the trauma until I understood who I really was. And what the chart was doing was allowing me to understand where those parts of me that I couldn't see, or those things about me that I didn't understand, like, why am I so hypersensitive? Why can I didn't know it as feeling everyone's emotion, but why am I so sensitive? And the world has shown me that that wasn't okay. So it wasn't just why am I so sensitive, it was like, why am I so sensitive? And to me it seemed like nobody else was. You know what I mean? Because you have to understand, like, when you're out in the world, I be saying butt naked, you know what I mean? Because you're just out there. I didn't know anything about protecting myself. I didn't realize I was an empath. I didn't know why I felt so heavy and why I would cry all the time and why all these things would happen to me. And I was like on an emotional roller coaster my whole damn life, and it was ridiculous. It was like this life of highs and lows, to the point where I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. What I understand about that bipolar disorder now is that me being a sun sign Cancer, I'm really, and a Scorpio rise, I do a lot of, and I have a Pluto in the 12th house. That's a whole nother ball game. I do a lot of absorbing of people's energy, and I would take it on as my own. But furthermore than that, because I have the signature, which I consider to be the bipolar signature, right? What is that? That's Moon and Gemini. Gemini's duality. It's the twins. It's very changeable. It's mutable. You know what I mean? My emotional nature exists in a space of duality, right? But not knowing these things about you and not knowing what the cure for that is, or how you can balance that out, or understand what you can tap into in your chart and in your environment that will help even that out or make it easier to cope with. Like, if you don't know that that's the case, how do you find the antidote? You know what I mean? And so, not to get too far gone on my own chart, but just understanding those things. And that is ultimately how I was introduced into astrology. You know what I mean? And so it was because I needed to heal my own hurt and pain and trauma. But before I can do that, I had to understand who I am and how I incurred some of these traumas, right? And so pulling my chart was something that definitely helped me. To me, the journey to knowing thyself, the number one most helpful tool, I feel like, is astrology. Now, I could be biased. You know what I mean? I could definitely be biased. But when you talk about your astrology chart, and I don't want to make this video too long, so I probably will just kind of taper it off and then come back and expound. But let's talk about it for a minute. When you talk about your astrology chart, you have your sun sign, who is the core of who you are. That is your core expression. You know what I mean? You have your moon sign. That's how you are on an emotional nature and what you need for emotional fulfillment. Then you have your Mercury sign. That's how you process information. That's how you give information. It's also how you process it, the lens through which you process it, right? And then you have your Mars. When you're ready to take action, your Mars signifies how you approach a task. It's also war, who you are when you're angry. You know what I mean? What gets you motivated, right? And then you have Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet that can signify where a lot of your blessings come, but it also taps into your belief systems, right? And then Saturn comes in and tells you where you need more structure and more discipline, and where that may be something that you work through throughout different stages in your life. Saturn is like a container. It makes you do the work. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. So all these little pieces in your chart and understanding the houses where they lie shows you where these energies come up in your life and how it is that you process them naturally. Now, once you understand the energies, right, you have the ability to understand the lower expression of the energy and the higher expression of the energy, how that energy is best served and best used versus when it's in its lower stage, and how it can show up in a room that may be less than desirable, right? All these are keys to knowing yourself. And once you start to unpack that, you can figure out honestly what is the trauma, what are the trauma responses, and what are the trauma, and what is part of your innate makeup. Now, in knowing your innate makeup, it's not an excuse. We don't say, oh, well, you know, I got a Scorpio Mars, so I get down. We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that you have a Scorpio Mars would mean that, okay, so you have the potential to be volatile. So you know what you do? You learn how to channel that energy into something that's going to be meaningful and purposeful in what you're trying to achieve, as opposed to going to the lower nature of that and going out here and dragging somebody, literally. You know what I mean? And so knowing all these things, right? And so how I got into this really was, you know, you go in the psych ward enough, you're going to realize that there's an obvious imbalance, right? And within that imbalance, you also realize as you're reaching out that there's not too many people that know how to help you. And even when they do, they can give you tools, but the work has to be done by you. You know what I mean? You're the one who has to dial in and do the work. And that work, part of that work is knowing and understanding who you are. And a lot of people think they know who they are, and in a lot of ways they do, but we still have blind spots. We have things that we don't understand, and also certain things and ways that we put out in the world that we're not privy to. You know, I've always been a Cancer, so I feel like I am the nicest person in the world, right? But I got Scorpio rise. A lot of people don't see that when they see me. You know, there's a sense of mystery behind it. They feel like, you know, they don't know always even how to approach me. And then once they start talking, they be like, oh, you're so nice. Well, what did you think? I've heard people say they thought I was stuck up, they thought I was mean, they thought I was a bitch, etc., 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 right? And so just having that awareness around it, and then also, even with the rising sign, understanding who you show up as in the world, and also who's drawn to you because of how you show up. You know what I mean? That's the intricate part of that too. But anyway, you know, healing is essential, and in order to do that, you need to know who you are. That sums it up. I kind of got off track here, but it's all good. Before I sat down, I asked Spirit to allow me to be used so that maybe something that I say can assist someone on the way, right? So if you're a person who needs a little help with their chart or have a question, you can always reach out to me. In my email, you can inbox me here on YouTube. You can reach out to me via email, islasinsights@gmail.com. It's the same spelling as this page. You know what I mean? And so don't be shy. If it's anything that I can assist you with on this journey to healing and getting to know who you are and how maybe certain energies show up, feel free to reach out. I would be more than happy to assist. I will be opening for readings real soon, but right now I'm still not, you know. But if there, in the meantime, in between time, if there's anything I can assist you with in trying to understand your chart or how something could play out or what that looks like, feel free to reach out to me. It's all good. I'm a really approachable person and like super easy to talk to. You know what I mean? And I'm just in a space now where I desire to be completely free and in this authentic space that is me, that I have oftentimes been shown throughout my time in this world that it wasn't safe to be. But you know, I'm grown enough now that I can use the discernment, and I know not to allow certain things and certain energies into my space, so I don't have to hide in the shell or wear the armor. And I really just want to get people and help people get to that same space. That doesn't mean that the healing is over. The healing is never over. Once you finish one thing, trust me, something else surfaces. Like it was like, we was waiting for you to heal that so we can come back and do this. Because now you got to heal this. It's like that. It's like it's waiting. So it's never just like a one and done. But as you begin to shed the layers and get lighter, life gets better. Remember that. You don't have to walk around with all that shit on you, because ultimately, I don't know what that was, but anyway, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a whole bunch of shit. Anyway, until next time, y'all, I'm signing off. That's all I got. It's your girl, Isla Moon. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you know someone who can benefit from hearing this message, please do share it with them. You know what I mean? Share it with them. Please get, you know, if it's anything ever that I post that you feel like it's something that someone that you know can benefit from, the fact that you recognize it means that you're supposed to send it to them. Why? Because you may be the liaison between my voice, between what spirit downloaded into me and gave me to say through my voice box to their ear, right? All right, y'all, that's all I got. Peace.